Hi guys, this is David from Automotive Press. As you guys know, I love full-size trucks, especially body-on-frame SUVs and trucks, and I've driven them all. Some of the cheaper models all the way to the most expensive body-on-frame, because there aren't that many body-on-frame SUVs out there anymore. And if you watched my videos before, you know that I've always loved the QX series, especially the older model which had a V8 engine, and I even said that one of these days I will buy a QX80 with a V8 engine. So it's going to be really interesting for me to look at this one here, which is an all-new 2025 QX80, now with a 3.5 liter twin turbo V6 engine, and it's completely transformed inside and out. Now, is that good enough to convince me that I like this one better than the predecessor? Or even when I compare this to the Lexus LX 600, which of these models do I like the best? The old QX, the new QX, or the Lexus LX? Well, I'm so convinced that this is one of the best body-on-frame SUVs from a luxury brand that I'm going to give you 7 reasons why I actually like this one better than the Lexus LX 600. Let's go. Welcome back. So here's a 2025 all-new Infiniti QX80, and one of the first thing I do, as you guys always know, is to do the quality check, because that's very important to me. Now, this thing is built in Japan, still built at the Kyushu plant, which is a further south, all the way south actually in Japan, and I'm hoping to visit that plant sometime in the near future. But right off the bat, let's check and see if the quality of this QX80 is actually better than the Lexus LX 600. Now, they're both built in Japan, but keep in mind the LX 600 is built at the Yoshiwara plant in Japan, which is part of the Toyota family, but it's not one of the mainstream Toyota factory. In fact, that plant builds the Lexus LX 600 and the Land Cruiser 300 series, but it's different from a Tahara factory where some of the higher volume models are produced, such as Lexus GX or 4Runner, and also my Land Cruisers are built in Tahara plant. So kind of interesting mixture of different plant and configuration that are happening these days. But one thing I noticed from measuring the gaps from the Lexus LX 600 is the fact that the actual body panels and the gaps aren't as good as those built in Tahara plant. So I'm kind of curious to see how this one compares against the Lexus LX 600. So I'm going to measure it right now, and you might be surprised how good it is. So 3 millimeter here, 3 millimeter here, completely aligned here, perfect alignment in fact. And guess what? It's exactly 3 millimeter there, 3 millimeter here, and guess what? That's right, 3.1 millimeters. So the gaps are almost identical across the board. And I can tell you based on my experience that the Lexus LX 600 was 4 millimeter, 4.1, 4 millimeters all the way across. So in terms of just the body gaps, this one is actually better than the Lexus LX 600. And also, if you look at the body panel, look how big these doors are. These are huge size, because this car has grown in size, both in terms of width, the height, and also the length. And so you end up with these huge pieces of metal, which is very difficult to go through in stamping shop, and not easy to form large pieces like this and make it perfect. But here it is, everything lines up, the panel looks perfect, I see no warpages, and all the way through, even here at the fuel cap, everything looks complete perfect. So I'm going to actually say, as far as exterior quality is concerned, in terms of alignment and gaps, this is better than the Lexus LX 600. What about the paint job? Well, I'm looking through the paint job, and the Lexus paint job is actually really good because they're known for that. But in this particular kind of pearl metallic white, once again, what I'm surprised is the fact that there is a very little orange peel. Usually Lexus and Toyota model has a fair amount of orange peel along the midsection here. You know what? Very little, just around here a little bit, but not much orange peel, and the paint job looks fantastic. This is a production model, and I expect nothing short of perfection from this factory anyway. The Infiniti plant in Kyushu is one of the best plants in Japan, if not in the world, and I can see that the quality of the paint is absolutely fantastic, and the clear coat is very consistent, and like I said, very little orange peels. So the quality of exterior is absolutely first class, solid A+ in my books, and in fact is better than Lexus LX 600, which brings me to the first reason why I like this one better than Lexus LX, simply because the manufacturing quality appears to be better in terms of the exterior. The second reason why I like this one more than Lexus LX 600, even though I really love the Lexus LX 600, is the fact that this one is quite a much larger vehicle than the LX. It is longer, wider, taller, with a longer wheelbase as well. And I'll give you the exact dimensions later on compared to the Lexus LX 600. But it's also much bigger than its predecessor, which is a 2024 Infiniti QX80. Those cars were really big to begin with, but this is even bigger. Kind of almost keeping in steps with larger American models from Cadillac and GMC. They're a very big vehicle. It doesn't come in regular length and long wheelbase like some of the American counterparts do, but this is basically kind of long wheelbase version already. It's pretty massive, which translates to much better interior spacing. I'll show you a little bit later on in terms of what the interior looks like. But because of the long wheelbase, because of the long body, and also wide body, you get tremendous amount of space, both in terms of front seat, the mid seat, even the third seat is comfortable, and the trunk space, even with the third seat up, is actually quite usable. And that's a very important thing because in terms of Lexus LX 600, it's pretty tight in the third seat and actually even tighter in the cargo space. Well, in the case of Sequoia, they really sacrificed the rear spacing because the big battery that takes up the space in the back. But for Infiniti QX80, they were able to package in such a way to have as much space as possible inside. So I find the interior very comfortable, which is my next topic to talk about. But just in terms of roominess, in terms of spacing, you can't beat the QX80 because for the first time we have a Japanese branded luxury SUV that has lots of space. Another reason why I'm in love with the new Infiniti QX80 is the gorgeous interior. We have two 14.3 inches panel plus a 9-inch panel. Now we don't get a passenger's panel over here, which is maybe it's a little bit surprising because that's one of the trend. But I find that a little bit gimmicky anyway, so I'm super happy to see two big panels over here for infotainment system and instrumentation gauges over here, and separate one for heating and ventilation and a variety of other controls as well. I still get physical buttons, which I'm thankful for, including the audio button here, and then this is for the transmission shifting. We've got air suspension control here and also camera functions. But generally speaking, if you look at the whole thing, the controls, the infotainment system, the technology behind it, the interior comfort, the design, the mixture of leather, honestly, I think it looks better than the Lexus LX 600. Granted, I really like the Lexus LX 600 interior as well, but it's not quite up to this standard. This looks like a proper $100,000 plus luxury SUV with a gorgeous inlay. There's a real wood over here as well, and then kind of a interesting pattern over here with Infiniti. Really amazing level of stitching, so the quality is first rate. Stitching over here as well, and then suede or kind of Alcantara headliner as well, which is not always available in some of the luxury models that I see these days, and also inlays here. So sometimes I find in the Lexus models lately the design is very simple and a little bit business-like, and maybe nothing wrong with that idea, but if you're going to pay $100,000 plus, I want to feel like I'm driving an expensive car. So the combination of different elements, different patterns and materials, a bit busy here, but still beautiful inlays, beautiful design. I actually definitely find the interior of this vehicle better than Lexus LX, for that matter, better than most other vehicles. Although lately I noticed some of the newer Cadillacs have a gorgeous interior. I do admit they have a really good interior design. So I like the interior better on the QX. Also, functionally speaking, because I have 3 panels as opposed to just 2, it's easier to control, and these panels are bigger than what you find in Lexus LX as well. So I find the controls easy to navigate, ergonomics are excellent. The seats has been really good. I drove almost an hour and a half today. It's very comfortable, and lots of headroom as well. And as I mentioned a little bit, it's bigger, roomier, more comfortable. And generally speaking, interior design is absolutely beautiful. So here I am in the back seat of the QX80, and I have a full control here for temperature, but I also have a control over here for both the climate as well as for seat controls and seat adjustment. Nice big cup holders here, and also another big console here as well. So in terms of comfort, it's amazing, but just technology wise, you can't ask for more. I have 3 panels in the front. I have 2 more panels over here controlling the temperature and HVAC, so extremely comfortable back here, and it's an extremely useful place. There are lots of new technology and advancements in the QX80 as well. I just used the ProPilot system on the way here. This is Vancouver to Whistler Drive, and I can drive with the hands-free, almost perfect. And I also like the fact that I can change the lane if the conditions are correct. I just push the turn signal and it will change the lane for me. And of course, that feature isn't new anymore these days, but Lexus LX 600 doesn't have that yet. So this is, I think, one step above and a little bit more advanced and newer than what we find in Lexus LX. Also, there are a number of other new features, which I'm going to show you in a second, including the under the hood view, as well as a wide angle view of the camera in the front. Those are things I'll demonstrate in a few seconds. And so there are quite a few interesting technology, as well as many kind of advancements. So I do definitely think the technology is a bit more up to date than the Lexus LX. But let me show you how the under the hood camera view works, as well as providing us with a very wide view in the front, which was helpful in terms of safety things. So let me show you that now. So let me now show you some really interesting and fascinating technology in the 2025 Infiniti QX80. So I'm going to just demonstrate by driving this slowly here, and I'm going to activate the front camera here. And what I'm going to do is, so this is the normal camera for the front, but I can also choose wide view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to this corner here and then just stop by right here, and you can see that there's a car over there, which is another QX80. And then I'm going to change to a wide angle view. And so actually I can see there is a small bicycle. I'll just go forward a little bit so you can see a little bit better. I can clearly see a bicycle now in this big screen, which is parked just beside the QX80. But from here where I'm sitting, I can't see it. It's completely hidden. So it's very possible that there could be a child there, and I could be just driving to the left, and then obviously there could be a potential accident. But if I put on the wide angle view, I can actually see that there's something there or someone there. And I can also geotag this location in the future, so that when I show up to this place, it will automatically start the wide camera, and then therefore I can always see almost like around the corner. And that's a cool feature because there's so many blind spots when you're parking these days. It's a potential safety issue, but not in this particular case. Next one, I'm going to demonstrate under the hood view. So what I'm going to do is to click this one here, and it's going to basically show underneath the car. Now the live camera is actually in front of the vehicle here, but as I drive, it will kind of simulate and create a view underneath the car. Obviously there is no camera underneath the car just because it's going to be dark. And I can see right now in front of me some skateboards on the ground and some orange safety cones, and I'm going to drive over them, and you'll see them underneath the car or simulated underneath the car. So I can actually see that I'm driving right over them. You can see the skateboards pretty clear. And I think what's shocking is that even though I've seen this kind of a feature before, it's high resolution. It honestly looks like it's right underneath my vehicle here, and so I can actually navigate slowly so I don't drive over the cones. So that's super cool, and it is accurate enough that I can even try to park my car really accurately in the front. There's two white labels on the ground, so almost pretend like I'm going through a car wash and I want to line up my left wheels with those two spots. And normally it would have been very difficult in a big car like this because I can't obviously see where my wheels are. But again, using the same system, if I just drive slowly, and I'll just stop here for a second, I can see the two white marks very clearly, and I can see my wheels there, so I can drive right over the white spot and actually line myself such that I go right on top of the spot. So right here, my left wheel is on top of the white marker on the ground. That would have been pretty impossible to try to do that while navigating the vehicle if I didn't have this system under the car, or the view under the car I should say. So it's really cool. So both of them very useful, and if I'm going off-roading, not that I would do that with this vehicle, but if I am, I will be able to see underneath the ground and make it easier. But even under normal circumstances, I can see many cases where this could be very helpful and also very much safety oriented. So the technology is amazing in this vehicle. Okay, so I'm actually doing the adaptive cruise control now called the ProPilot. That's the Nissan's term. So I can take my hands off and it will automatically follow the lanes. But also in the right condition, it will change the lane as well, which is always a little bit tricky, but I will give that a attempt right now. Change the lane, and if it works, it should change. Yeah, there you go. It changed the lane by itself, and I just have to make sure that I touch the steering wheel and successfully moved over. There are many interesting technologies in this vehicle. One of them is called individualized audio. So I could be maybe talking to a phone, and there's speakers right behind me on my headrest, and other passengers in the back and also in the front can turn on the music and listen to a music. Even if it's loud, the noise cancellation system will actually isolate my voice, and I'm able to have a normal conversation with the other person, and they wouldn't even hear the music. And of course, my other passengers won't hear me talking as well because they have the music cranked up nice and loud. So that's a very interesting technology. I've never seen that anywhere else. It works remarkably well. I just can't show it to you right now because I'm driving and I don't want to turn on the sound and the music and so forth. Also, there's a thing called the biometric cooling. So when you actually enter the car, for example, let's say from a hot sun, and your body temperature is higher than everyone else in the car, there will be an actual infrared sensor that will detect your body temperature, and if you happen to be feeling hotter and your actual temperature is hotter than other people, it will direct more air and more cooling to your seat than the rest of the people, and so that you can get cooled down faster and obviously feel more comfortable quickly. So that kind of technology again is new, not just the QX, but I think in industry I've never seen that anywhere else as well. And so those two technology alone makes it quite unique, along with the many other advanced technology in this vehicle. And it kind of makes many other vehicles, including Lexus LX, feel a little bit outdated because this one has so many interesting advanced technologies. So I have been driving this car for the last couple of hours, and one of the things I loved the most about the Infiniti QX80, more than anything else about this vehicle, is the way it performs and drives on the road. It now has a 3.5 liter twin turbo V6 engine, good for 450 horsepower. So a lot more horsepower and a lot more torque, more than 100 foot-pounds of torque than last year. So even though it's lost the V8 engine, it has way more power and torque, and actually has more power than the Lexus LX 600 as well. And so that's immediately noticeable. When I step on the gas, even though I thought I will miss the V8 engine, actually it's turning out that I'm not going to miss the V8 engine because the immediate power delivery and torque delivery is really impressive. I step on the gas like this, takes off right away. And when I was driving through the road to Whistler here in BC, there are many hills up and down, and so I had to step on the gas a couple of times to pass a car, and this thing has no shortage of power and torque delivery to help it accelerate. And from that perspective, the difference between this and Lexus LX is quite noticeable. I don't mind at all the way the Lexus LX 600 drives, and the power delivery on the 3.4 liter twin turbo V6 on that vehicle is also really good too. But this one is clearly more powerful and is more apparent as a kind of performance powertrain, because I feel like this one just feels better in terms of shifting, in terms of power and torque delivery compared to Lexus LX. Maybe the LX would be an amazing vehicle if we had the twin turbo V6 with a hybrid system similar to the powertrain that's already in the Sequoia and Tundra, and that would transform the LX 600 because it will have even more power and torque than this one. But as it stands, it doesn't come in hybrid, and therefore when I compare the Lexus LX to Infiniti QX80, there's no question that the powertrain is better in this vehicle. The sixth reason why I really like this one, and yes, I like it better than Lexus LX, is because the handling is better. Now that's kind of weird to say that because it's a huge SUV, it's body on the frame, it's truck-based frame, so you don't really expect the actual handling to be good or even decent. But you know what? I've taken this vehicle through winding road from Vancouver to Whistler and some pretty curvy roads up and down the hills, and I was really blown away how well it handled, especially for body on the frame. and especially considering the size of this vehicle, it stayed flat. I didn't feel like I was losing control. The steering feedback was really good. I got decent amount of feedback. The steering is not too light, which is one of my pet peeves because so many large SUV have no feeling at all in terms of steering. But this one has good cornering, quick steering. As you can tell, I'm turning a little bit right now through curvy roads. And it's surprisingly good for a big SUV. I would even say that it handles better than some mid-size SUVs. So they've really worked hard to make sure that the handling is sharp, that it's agile, that it's very predictable, and that it gives a different standard now in terms of handling, cornering, steering feel. It's definitely the best among all the luxury SUV, not just in terms of comparing to Lexus LX 600, but comparing to everything else out there. This one I think actually handles the best, again, considering the sheer size of this vehicle and the fact that this is steel body on the frame. So while it doesn't have a handling of a sports machine, it definitely handles better than almost every other large three-row luxury SUV. The seventh factor I want to talk about is the pricing. Now, depending on where you live, of course, the pricings are all different. So I encourage you to take a look at either US website or Canadian website. And this car, of course, will be sold globally. So in your own country, you'll have your own pricing. But regardless, if you compare this pricing to Lexus LX or even to Cadillac Escalade, it is quite attractive pricing. It's anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 cheaper on a very similarly equipped model. And while it doesn't have all of the powertrain options that, let's say, General Motors might offer, I think all in all, it's a good value because of the pricing. It is definitely cheaper than others. It is a huge price increase from the previous model from 2024, but it's still cheaper than Lexus LX 600, cheaper than many other fully equipped SUVs. But on the other hand, we don't know the resale value yet. Generally speaking, Infiniti has not been really great with resale value. I think this one will hold value better than before, but it's a little hard to say, and maybe that will be one area where Lexus LX 600 will still have an advantage just because the LX 600 being associated with the Land Cruiser 300 series have been really good with the resale value. But overall, regardless, the pricing is very attractive, even though it has gone up quite a bit compared to last year. So as my final remark, why do I like the Infiniti QX80 so much? Well, first of all, you guys know I love large SUV, especially body-on-frame SUVs with a great powertrain, especially if they happen to have a good handling. And based on that criteria, I really like the Lexus LX 600 because it's a beautiful vehicle with so much going for it. But at the same time, I feel like there's something missing, partly because the powertrain doesn't have a hybrid system, but also because the handling and the steering feel is a little bit on the numb side. There's not much feedback between the road and my hand on the Lexus LX 600 and the similar Land Cruiser 300 series, which is not available in North America. So I feel like that car is, close to perfect, but it's missing a few things. And that few things are the things that Infiniti QX80 has and offer compared to Lexus LX 600. There's more power, more torque in this one. It handles definitely better than Lexus LX. It corners better. I have more feedback on the steering when I'm turning. And even though this is a much bigger vehicle than before, it just feels way more agile and it's more fun to drive. And the ride, the comfort, everything else is better. Not to mention that there are much more advancements in technology and features available in this vehicle. So if I were to buy kind of $100,000 plus luxury SUV right now, even though I was in love with LX 570 with a V8 engine and the previous QX80 with a V8 engine, I have to admit this one actually convinced me might be the best one in terms of large full-size luxury SUV. I like it to the point where if I were to spend that kind of money, this would be my number one choice. And unfortunately for Lexus, I like this one better than Lexus as well. If I was going to buy a Lexus full-size SUV, I would still buy the pre-V6 model, which is the LX 570 with a V8. That's a beautiful machine, and that would be top of my choice. But if you were to compare brand new models, Infiniti QX80 is the best choice. So I hope you enjoyed my videos comparing the Infiniti QX80 to the Lexus LX 600. Both are beautiful, both are amazing. This one is just a little bit better in many different aspects, and for me, this is a better choice. If you enjoyed my video, please give me a thumbs up, make some comments, and if you haven't done so yet, would you kindly subscribe as well. Until next video, I'm signing off for now.